As athletes, we strive for perfection, and in most cases, are willing to do just about whatever it takes and even go to drastic measures just to reach the goals that we have set out for ourselves. That competitive mentality has led to some extraordinary advances as it pertains to the things that pitchers have been able to accomplish from a physical fitness standpoint over the last few decades or so. Guys are bigger, guys are stronger, guys are faster, guys are more explosive than ever before. And what it's done is truly weeded out the elite of the elite competition. Guys are throwing 100 miles an hour, they're starting. Guys are throwing 104 miles an hour that are relieving. It doesn't matter if you do not become the best version of yourself, it is going to be extremely hard to compete against some of the guys who are getting all of that early coaching and early training that is helping them reach these extreme feats that some of these other guys who aren't experiencing some of those things from an early age, they just run out of time. In our athletic conquest for perfection, athletes are now pushing their bodies to whatever they perceive their limit is, in hopes of trying to break through that barrier and continue to keep creeping closer and closer and closer to whatever version of perfection that it is that we've been chasing. It's truly hard to decipher whether we can actually reach the best version of ourselves. And quite frankly, it's damn near impossible to calculate or quantify in any sort of way. But in a sense, that fact is exactly what keeps us in a constant chase for more, a constant chase for the most. Now, it's no secret that we are in an arm injury pandemic. Ball players of young ages all the way to guys who have been established big leaguers are experiencing elbow injuries and shoulder injuries at a rate like it's safe to say that we've never seen before. But we could have genuinely seen it coming. Look, we're human, and we're imperfect vessels at the end of the day. Our chase for physical perfection is now becoming a very staunch reminder of that. However, it is extremely valuable to take a dive in to see if this race that we're all running just results in a dead end, or if we shouldn't worry too much about what lies at the end of the race and instead just focus on pacing ourselves and enjoy the ride at the end of the day. What we have to examine is what all young pitchers want to do, and that is just to become great. The first thing that we have to realize is what is it that great pitchers actually do? So it's fairly simple. Great pitchers, they throw fuzz. They throw fuzz for strikes. They're very durable, and they're able to manage the game. So these two things, obviously, they go hand in hand. You want to do both. You want to throw hard, but you also want to be able to throw hard in the zone. I put throwing hard first because throwing fuzz is the ultimate metric. It's the ultimate outlier. The harder you throw, the harder it is to hit. That's just the simple fact of the matter. But obviously, if you're throwing fuzz, but you're not throwing it in the zone, then that just becomes nullified. As far as being durable is concerned, that's what the guys who make the big bucks, the reason why they're paid that much money, they're able to throw hard, they're able to throw strikes, and they're able to do it basically throughout the entirety of the game. They're able to hold, now it's 100 plus miles an hour in the zone for 7+ innings. And then managing the game is just something that comes along with the rest of these things. They're able to hold runners, they're able to field their position, they're able to do all of the little things that help make them a complete pitcher. And all of these things are what great pitchers are able to do. So the next thing we want to think about is all young kids, obviously, they want to be great pitchers. They want to be the Jacob deGroms, the Garrett Coles of the world. So what you have to do is realize how to become a great pitcher. So if you want to throw fuzz, you have to lift heavy. It's very rare where you'll find guys who just have it like that, that it factor that a lot of coaches, a lot of people talk about, where they're able to throw fuzz, they're able to do a lot of these things without being big and without being strong. The fact of the matter is, as you look at guys in the big leagues, especially guys that are on the mound in the big leagues, they're 6'4", they're 220 pounds, they're big, they're strong, and that's one of the main reasons why they're elite athletes and one of the main reasons why they're able to do a lot of these things. So you have to be able to lift heavy. You have to get your repetition in. You got to do your drills. You have to throw bullpens. You have to play in games. You have to do all of them. All of those things entice what it takes to become a great pitcher, to become one of those guys that you see on TV making all the money. You have to lift heavy. You have to get your repetition in. You have to do your drills. You got to do your bullpens. You have to play in games. You have to compete. All of those things go hand in hand when it pertains to what it takes to become a great pitcher. You have to get your conditioning in and your arm care. You want to be durable. You want to be able to do all these things for multiple innings. You have to be conditioned. You have to be strong. You have to take care of your arm. That's just the fact of the matter. Having a great coach, working under a good facility, these things end up getting ironed out and these things can get planned for you. It's very hard and very tricky to be a young, youthful athlete and try and figure all of these things out on your own. That's why it's very important to make sure that you're working under somebody who's done it before, who's been drafted, who's gotten to, professional baseball and did things of that nature, because all of these things are critical when it comes to becoming a great pitcher. And then the last thing, you have to be mechanically efficient. You have to find the most efficient way for you to throw the baseball, for you to move through space. This is another one of those things where it's very hard to think about being mechanically efficient on your own, especially as a youthful athlete. That's where, like I just mentioned, it really comes in handy to be working under a coach who's done it before, who's worked with high-level athletes, who's been a high-level athlete himself, and somebody who can give you a bird's eye view of what it looks like to be the most mechanically efficient version of yourself. Now, this last section is where things can get a little bit tricky, and we start to dissect the things that can put you at risk for injury. So we're going to start with chronic fatigue, which is basically just overuse. These two things very much go hand in hand. Like I said, the tricky part about this is fatigue and overuse can come from you trying to get your repetition in. It can come from you trying to become as strong as you can possibly become. It can come from you trying to be the most conditioned that you can become and doing all of the arm care that you need to make sure that your elbow and your shoulder is strong and sturdy and ready to get back out there the next time that you need to perform. Like I mentioned, it's a slippery slope and it's a very thin line between a lot of these things. And as we move on, we get to gains in velocity. When it comes to gains in velocity, those things come from lifting heavy. It comes from getting your repetition in. It comes from throwing in games. Like I've mentioned to a lot of my athletes before, a lot of my big velocity jumps came in game. They didn't come at a facility inside with turf shoes on and any things of that nature. It came with an umpire. It came with cleats on, with a jersey on, with me trying to compete for the guys around me. So gains in velocity, however, can put you at major risk for injury. But at the end of the day, this is what's going to help you become a great pitcher. Now, as we start to get into more of these things that put you at risk for injury, you'll start to realize that a lot of these things end up being the same, or at least there's a very fine line between a lot of these things and the things that can actually make you great. So the last thing would be learning new pitches. Obviously, every young athlete comes in, they want to learn how to throw a new slider, a better slider. They want to learn how to throw a new curveball, a better curveball. They want to learn how to throw a splitter and a changeup and all of these things to try and put their repertoire together to make them great pitchers, because they turn on the TV and they see the Garrett Coles, the Jacob deGroms, and they're throwing 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of pitches. And that's the things that they know that they need to do to become great pitchers. Learning new pitches can also put you at risk for injury. That just is what it is. There's just only so much that we can do about that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the things that help you become great, you have to start to blur the lines of whether these things are actually worth it. And I'd say, in my opinion, they're definitely worth it, because this is the things that the great pitchers do. You can't go about your career thinking too much about, oh man, what if I get hurt? What if I get hurt? When at the end of the day, a lot of the things that put you at risk for injury also go hand in hand with the things that can make you become a great pitcher, and the things that can, quote unquote, keep you healthier for longer, like conditioning, like doing your arm care, like getting your repetition in, like lifting heavy, all of these like becoming mechanically efficient. All of those things in a nutshell should be keeping you healthy and should be giving you an upward trajectory as far as your career is concerned. But they also go hand in hand with a lot of these things that can put you at risk for injury. So at some point you have to realize, okay, injury is just part of sports. It just is what it is. The more elite you become and the higher up you continue to play this game, the risk for injury just gets higher and higher. That's just part of sports. But at the end of the day, you have to be willing to take some of the good with some of the possible risk factors.
You want to become great, you have to lift heavy, you have to get your repetition in, you have to condition, you have to do your arm care, you have to be mechanically efficient. The fact of the matter is a lot of those things just happen to go hand in hand with some of the things that can put you at risk for injury. But you should never be fearful of that. Some of the best athletes in the world, like I just mentioned, them just going on about their business and going out there and performing during their sport, that within itself just puts you at risk for injury. You trying to become the best version of yourself from a physical standpoint, that's just one of those things that you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. It is what it is.
In conclusion, the differences between the things that can turn you into a great pitcher and the things that can put an athlete at risk for injury is a razor thin line, and a line that no athlete should be fearful of. The fact of the matter is, if this game is gracious enough to you and you're allowed to play into adulthood, be thankful of where your feet are. Constantly thinking about and chasing the pitcher that you might become will strip you from all the beauty that playing this beautiful game can provide. There's nothing easy about trying to maximize your potential. It comes with risks and hurdles and hardships, but as long as some caution is mixed in with unwavering dedication, then the race will always be worth running.